Happy Saturday, everybody. It's Jesse. We're about to do some tea here. I'm going to give everybody a couple seconds to get into the lobbies and everything like that. I hope I can see your comments. You guys are a little further away than normal, but that's fine. How's everybody doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Jesse. I'm your tea guy. For those of you who are just joining the channel and for some reason this is the first video that you've seen as this random recording of a live somewhere, or you're just joining it live for some reason, I'm Jesse. I'm a tea guy. I lived in China for 9 years. I was a comedian in China, and I still do Chinese language comedy, but my thing now in the States has really turned into this tea account. I started this tea account about 4 years ago, and it's pretty crazy to think it's already been 4 years. It seems like it just started. But you guys have really, come around. I know we have this great following of people who, all have tea together. And if you are in a place that you can't have tea right now, this is your excuse. Go get the water boiling. Let's have tea. I'm going to be on here about an hour or so. We'll chill. We'll have tea. It'll be a lot of fun. Kwaman's over here. Hello. Z says hello. Avi Fagan says hello. Welcome, welcome. We have the cool bad dog says glad they can make it to a stream. Thank you so much. I'm gonna see if I can. Actually, it's harder for me to move the table. Easier for me to move the table and the tripods. I'm moving the table a little bit forward so I can get a little bit better view of your comments. This is better. Very good. Z asked what we're drinking today, and that is actually exactly what I wanted to talk to you guys. My water is just coming up to temperature right now. We just released a new subscription tea box with 3 new teas in it. And so I'll let you guys choose which one of the 3 that I'm going to drink today. We have the Sister Eyes Rose Red Tea. So this is, it's a Shai Hong red tea, but with rose petals, Yunnan rose petals pressed into the tea. That's a great option. We have the Taiwanese 4 Seasons Oolong. So this is the 4 Seasons Oolong. It's a very classic Taiwanese, crisp and clean oolong. And then we have the Dark Boy, which is the my friend Yunqing's 2013 cooked pu'er, which is from the last Year of the Snake. So it's Year of the Snake. Right when this box came out, it was right at the Chinese New Year for the Year of the Snake. So I figured I'd do the thing. So everybody give me a 1, put in the chat, a 1 if you want the rose, a 2 if you want the 4 Seasons, and a 3 if you want the cooked pu'er. And we'll make whichever one you guys like. They're all amazing, so there's really no doubting it. Vote for the oolong red tea. Get some 2s, oolongs, cooked pu'er, oolong, rose tea. Got the 2, 3, somebody asking where to buy these. These are all on my website. The new subscription box just launched, justthesteals.com. But stay and chill for the tea in a bit, and you can go check out the site later if you want. 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2. I'm seeing a lot of 3s. It's close between 3 and 2. I'm gonna go, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna drink this one, then that one, just because in general, if you're drinking tea, multiple teas in one session, I like to go from lighter to darker. I feel like it's easier to kind of up the darkness of the tea rather than take it from a very dark, heavy tea down to a light one. So we're gonna start with the oolong, and then we're gonna move to the cooked pu'er, and that should be fantastic. So. Excellent. If anybody's just joining for the first time, I'll give a little bit of a description of what I'm doing here. This is a Gongfu tea table. So this is a stone tea table, although they make them in bamboo and in, different types of, resin, wood, all sorts of material. And we'll put our tea pads up at the front so you guys can see them. There we go. Cheers. We got a pig boy and a snack and a nugget, of course. The tea is made in this cup, which is the gaiwan, which is the lidded cup. And I just opened this. It was yesterday I made this video. Made my video about this oolong. There we go. Seems about right. Put that down there. Get this sized up. By the way, everybody was asking what the green things that came in the oolong are. I made a video on it yesterday. It's a bag closer. So you want to take the loop of the bag like that, and then you'll see one of the end has this little spike in it, and you slide the spike into that like furl of the bag. It's actually not that difficult. I'm just bad at life. There we go. Bam. Now that bag is closed. And for oolong tea, you want to remember you want your oolong tea to be airtight and light tight. In the tin, bam, sealed up, staying fresh, should be good. Sometimes people ask me, is there a specific expiration date, like when it loses flavor? It just kind of slowly loses flavor over time. Within a year, fine. 2 years, you're starting to push it. 3 years. I mean, if you really like tea, get some fresh oolong if you really like tea. So, yeah, let me guys know if you've gotten these, if you've gotten the new Four Seasons already, how you're liking it, because it's a great tea. Here we go. I'm going to put that into the lidded cup. Lost one leaf. I'll put it in there. I'm not picky. I hope everybody's having a great start to your weekend. I have 2 birthday parties to go to after this, so I'm enjoying my tea time. Go out and hang out with some friends. It'll be a lot of fun. Questions over here. Gary Strider says, I got mine in. Absolutely loved it. Fantastic. Thomas Turney says, how do you look for tasting notes in tea? That's a good question. I don't know. I definitely, the main tasting notes usually that you get from different teas, and part of it is knowing what tea you're drinking. So like, for instance, this oolong, this is a light and fragrant oolong, okay? So I'm not expecting to get like leather or like, dark red wine or like cigars or anything like that out of this. So first of all, I'm already tuning my brain. Now, if somebody says that it tastes cigars in the tea, I'll look for it while I'm drinking, but generally that's not really the way it works. That's really nice. I guess I'll give you a sniff, even though you can't sniff. Yeah, bam, 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 in your sniffer. So when I'm drinking this type of tea, I'm already kind of looking for a certain types of flavors that might show up. So I'm not tasting out of like zero. Cheers, by the way. Very nice, clean, clear result. Very clean, very clear. Yeah, you can see me through the, see my reflection through the thing. Yeah, that's so cool. So when I taste the tea, I'm kind of looking for like, obviously sweetness. There are types of like floral flavors in there too. Usually the floral and the sweet are the 2 main kind of like flavors within a tea. But depending on what type of tea, there may be a lot of other stuff there too. That's really sweet. I steep this at 85. I recommend that. I'm trying to remember what I told people to steep it at on the can. They said 90. 90 is good. This is sometimes the information on the tea tin is a combination of what I think and what the farmers tell me to put on it. So there's no one right way to make it. If you generally speaking, whenever you're making a tea, if you steep it hotter, you'll get kind of more flavor. If you steep it lower temperature, you'll get more sweetness. So if you steep at a very low temperature, like for instance, if you just leave the tea in like room temperature water for like a day, you'll get a very, very sweet steep out of that tea. The problem is you have to wait a day to get it. The heat is like a catalyst that makes the tea kind of give its energy into the liquid, the water that you're steeping in. So very, very cool. Hope that kind of answers the question. Got a bunch more questions over here. Melodramatic McDouble says, my hyperinflation is very pleased right now. I appreciate that. Feel free to take out your own tea set and make tea, guys. Gary says, smells wonderful. Excellent. Vidka Anger says, do you have any updates on the EU shop? Yes. So all of the stuff from our first shipment of tea equipment is in the UK warehouse and it's set. We are waiting for them to like onboard it into their system, but it's already there. As soon as we get the onboarding notice, we're gonna do like a couple test orders and test out the technology, and then we should be ready to launch. And the only question after that is whether we can time it up so that the first shipment of Taiwanese tea combines with this first shipment of tea equipment. The Taiwanese tea is supposed to be arriving like tomorrow. So if it means delaying the launch for like 3 days so that when we launch, we can actually have tea and tea equipment available, I'm probably going to delay the launch a couple days just to make sure that when people go on, they can actually get some tea, because right now we only have the equipment in the warehouse. But all of these updates and everything that we're doing and the launch information, everything is going to be at eu.jessiesteelhouse.com, eu.jessiesteelhouse.com. That will be the EU shop. We're going to have a functionality when you go in the shop that you're going to be able to switch between, say, the EU shop, the US shop, and the UK shop. And if it's in stock in the EU shop, it will ship from the EU. If it's not in stock in the EU shop and it's only in the American shop, you will still have the option of getting it from America, but it will ship like we've been doing before for the last 3 years. But I'm very excited because I've literally been working on this for a year, and we're finally going to be opening, I'd say likely next week. But we'll, again, I've stopped giving out promises. I do not promise we're opening next week. I'm just saying that if everything goes right, and again, nothing has gone right all the way through, but if everything goes right, probably next week. That being said, not a lot can go wrong now. Everything is through customs. It's in our warehouse in the Netherlands, and we're ready to go. So very, very excited. People questions, Colonel Popcorn says, can you give us some insight on the UST import market other than price and actual tasting? There are indicators on how to tell quality of retailers sold in the US. It's hard. There's a reason why all the work I do is valuable to people. The US import market for tea is very complicated. The laws make it difficult to do anything at small scale, and high level tea is still a niche thing in America. So if you want to import everything properly, it's very difficult to do that at a small scale just because of the amount of regulation and paperwork and supply chain stuff you have to do on the China side. Not to mention, you can import tea to America, but that doesn't mean the Chinese will let you export it. So they have rules about how to get it out, and then America has rules about how to get it in, and a lot of these things are very complicated. Basically, this is part of the reason why we don't see a lot of Chinese tea on the global market, is because it's only worth doing all that extra work if either you're working at huge scale or the tea itself is very cheap. If the tea is really cheap, you can spend all the money you would have spent on better tea on hiring customs agents and like people to go and chase down all the different forms you need in China. It's really a mess. So as a result, a lot of the best tea in the States is kind of run by these small kind of semi-underground operations. I've spent the last like 2 or 3 years, ever since like year 2 of the tea company, where I was like, oh, people are actually following this. Like, I want to try to get this like organized and do it as properly as possible. I spend a huge amount of time and energy that I don't talk about, like securing papers from China, papers from America, lab tests to make sure that there are no overuse of pesticides, no heavy metals. All of this sort of stuff is needed to import it properly. And I don't say it as a bad thing, but a lot of small importers can't do this. So it's not to say that you can't like trust small importers at all. Like, I would say the opposite. I think that generally they tend to have their heart in the right place, but it makes it very difficult from a formal like import perspective to do this industry properly. And it makes it very difficult because of that to then just be able to walk into a tea shop and say, they have a Chinese tea, is it any good? Who knows? It's like it literally has to do with how good that tea house is at sourcing their tea. So I would say if people are telling you the names of the tea, when it's picked, the years of the tea, where they got it from, ideally the names of the people who are growing it, these are all generally good signs. If somebody's like, it's black tea, what type of black tea? Chinese, like that's not a good sign. I also find that even within that, certain types of tea are even harder to source, like pu'er. Getting good pu'er, especially good cooked pu'er, there's a lot of like kind of bad, fishy, not so great cooked pu'er floating around because it's just so different from other teas that Americans and Europeans and people that don't drink a lot of cooked pu'er really don't know what they're drinking, so they can't tell one from the other. So like, unless the place that you're going to like is really hardcore and they know pu'er sourcing particularly, I wouldn't get pu'er from there, because it's likely that if they have like 80 teas and 3 of them are pu'er, that they probably just got the pu'er from some sort of middleman, which is not the end of the world. It's like they could have picked a good middleman, but like it's again, if you're saying just walk into a door, what would I look for to see if these people knew what they were talking about? You know, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So again, the original goal of the website was that anything that makes it onto my website, I've done all this work for you. So it's like, it is a lot of work, but part of it's fun. And also part of it is like, you know, part of the reason why if the prices look higher than in your grocery store, that's part of the reason why. You know, it's being sourced from specific people, specific mountains. And then we have to kind of have, we spend a lot of money on paperwork and people doing export paperwork and import paperwork and taxes and tariffs, and like, we're not putting it over in a suitcase and then just kind of wait until we sell out. Like, I'm trying to actually do this the right way. And so that adds a lot of cost to it, that sometimes people on the internet are like, it's overpriced. I'm like, you guys have been used to not following any laws forever. That's part of the reason it's cheap. Or they're shipping it one at a time from China, so they're not paying American storage fees, they're not paying like American healthcare costs for their employees. There are like other reasons why it could be cheaper. But if you're gonna try to do it right, I think this is the way to do it. So, cheers. Questions over here. M says, cheers, Jesse. Enjoyed the 5-time charcoal roasted Dongding Oolong today. That's awesome. Enjoy it. I'm very glad that you got some of that. The 5-time charcoal roast is a really unique oolong. If you like oolongs and you've had a bunch, I would try that one, because it is unique, even for me that's had a lot of oolong. When I had that for the first time last winter, when I was in January picking out the teas for the oolong box, I was like, oh, that's a good one. Cheers. Questions over here. Lauren T says, Jesse. Hello, Lauren T. Welcome. Lauren says, how does it compare to a roasted lapsang? That's a good question. They're different. The lapsang is smoked with pine, and the roasted oolong, the 5-time roasted Dongding Oolong, is roasted with charcoal from Longanwood. So it's Longan versus pine. That's one of the things. I'm also not a super expert in the smoking process of the lapsang, so I don't know exactly how it differs from the roasted oolong that we have on the site. But it's in my experience, the lapsang smoke is stronger and like much more like the problem with finding good lapsang is that it's very easy to find very, very smoky lapsang. It's very difficult to find lapsang that is balanced, like it's smoky, but it's part of the whole flavor of the tea, as opposed to like, bam, see, you got a smoked tea, this is intense. And generally, you know, if I'm a tea drinker that really likes kind of, one of the things I look for in tea is that balance, is like, how many different things can we have going on at once before they overpower each other? And so the main reason why I like that 5-time charcoal roasted is not just because I like the Longanwood charcoal versus the pine. It was also because the people that we're getting it from, Mr. Liang, who does the actual charcoal roasting, it's all done by hand in 8-hour segments. So he'll put it out in the beginning of the day, he'll light the charcoal, he'll get the whole thing on kind of like a bamboo like wire holder, like above the charcoal, and then they add ash into the charcoal pit, and by adding more ash you dampen the fire, and by removing ash you reduce the fire, but the ash gets hot and spreads out the heat very, very evenly, and so you get this very low, very even heat, and you apply it for 8 hours at a time. And the reason we say it's 5 times roasted is that that product is actually roasted with that thing 5 times, 5 8-hour sessions, 40 hours of roasting, spread out over about a month, because you have to let it kind of heat up, cool down, heat up, cool down. And so the result is that tea in particular, It's one of the reasons why, you know, one 50-gram tin of that tea is $32, is because it takes a month to make and it's all hand done. So the result of that, though, is when you drink that 5 times charcoal roasted oolong, you don't just get like ash in your mouth. It's actually very smooth and clean, despite having a fair bit of smoke to it, which is very cool. So the that being said, as I said, I'm not an expert in lapsang sochong like smoking. I've seen the charcoal smoking in Taiwan with my own eyes. I have not seen the other one. So cheers, by the way, cheers. Great questions. Lots of great questions over here. Hidden Arrow, hey Jesse, was there ever an update on the LA fire donations? Not yet, but I'm looking for good charities. So for those of you who don't know, there was a big fire in Los Angeles. 15,000 homes burned down. It's the worst fire in the history of the city. We did a fundraiser where we sold a couple teas, and then I was going to donate all the profit to charity. We fundraised about $8,800, and I'm going to top it off to $10,000 in total with a personal donation. And I've been asking around the Chinese community in Pasadena and Altadena in the San Gabriel Valley if there are any Chinese charities that we'd be able to donate the money to. I do want to donate it to the right people. And at the time, the fires were still raging. So I was like, I can't go outside because there's fire outside. I can't go and hang out with a lot of my friends because they lived in those areas. Some of them even had to evacuate. So I was like, I want to do something now. And so I did the fundraiser before I actually knew where I was sending the money. But rest assured, we will be sending that money somewhere. And I'm still doing research. I have a couple leads that I'm following up on. But it's crazy. Luckily, the fires are out now. So we just gotta hope they don't start up again because the overall climate has not changed. So, yes, questions over here. Overtime says, Jesse, we love you. Cheers. I love you guys too. Have your, if you're not drinking tea right now, this is your option. We're on like steep 3 or 4 of this oolong. Still really nice flavor. Still really nice color. Very clean. I'm getting like, we got really big sweetness in the first steeps. I'm tasting more kind of like centered, kind of like almost getting more into the black tea part or the red tea part of the oolong now. The beginning it was more like a green tea. Now we're moving more into the body of that kind of like red tea sort of thing. Reheat my water. Cheers over here. Questions? Nate Dogg drinking Long Jang. Hey Nate Dogg, how you doing? OG on the channel. Over here, questions. Lucy Johnson, yes, this is my time to drink tea. Exactly. Questions over here. Santos drinking some red that I got from the fire fundraiser. Hey, perfect. Hey, everything's coming, you know, full circle. Questions over here. Jesse, green or black? I don't drink as much green tea as I think some people do. I like green tea and I drink a lot of it kind of in the spring when the new green teas come out. And then I find I generally drink a little bit less of it as the year goes on. But that's, you know, that's because I'm a madman and I'm drinking so much tea all the time. I do like a really nice green, especially when it's nice out, especially as the summer comes. It's nice and cooling, not have the tea so hot. Over here, Overtime Bro says I'm drinking a 10-year age Da Hong Pao right now. It's incredible. That's awesome. The older, yeah, aged the Encha is excellent. That's the very, very good stuff. Z Zephyr says, hey Jesse, I read the Jinjume I purchased is highly brew resistant and can last for up to a dozen steeps. Thoughts? Highly brew resistance, I'm assuming, is a translation of like Nai Pao. It's like patiently steepable. It's kind of like the attribute that says how often you can steep the tea. 12 steeps for a Jinjunmei sounds like a lot. It would have to be a very, very high grade Jinjunmei if it's going to give you 12 steeps. If you paid less than $1 a gram for it, I'm not sure that I buy that you can actually steep it that long. But, you know, I mean, there is no set limit to say when you can stop steeping the tea. It's not like there's an exact number. If you steep with very short steeps, the tea will do more steeps. If you steep with very long steeps, you're going to get fewer steeps out of it. Different qualities of tea can have different amounts of steep time that they're really able to do. So it's not crazy to say if you got really good Jinjinmei, you could get 12 steeps out of it. But that's up at the edge. I'd say 5 to 8 steeps is what you're looking for from a Jinjinmei. It's also possible that what they've done is they're selling you Dianhong, but they're calling it Jinjinmei, which is the Dianhong is kind of the leaves. Jinjinmei is the bud from that certain type of red tea. And so the Jinjinmei is lighter, sweeter. It'll often have that golden color to it, which is why it's called golden stallion eyebrows. And so that is why a lot of people will pay more money for it. It's kind of a more delicate, more like sort of like sweet and quote unquote high-end tea. I love Dianhong as well. Dianhong is tasty. It's got like chocolatey flavor to it. It's deep, it's rich. It can be re-steeped very often, 15 times. I used to have these Dianhong tea balls on my website back in the beginning of the thing, which were like, I can't get them anymore, but they were like a great deal. They were these giant 7-gram balls, and I could give people 15 of them for $30 because they were not that expensive. They just went on forever. Like if you wanted to steep that tea all day, it would just never stop. So still looking for another Dianhong to replace that one. In practice, really, the Sister I's Everyday Red Tea is the kind of our current version of that. Great questions over here. We have a question. Somebody says that the waiting for the second round of the subscription tea to come. So excited! New subscription just launched February 1st. That's where we got the 3 teas that we are drinking right now. The red tea, the red tea pressed with rose petals, Yunnan roses, 2013 Shou Pu'er, and then of course what we're drinking right now, the Taiwanese 4 Seasons Oolong. Very cool. It's also cool to have tea from Taiwan and the mainland in one box, which is kind of fun. Questions. I'm Just Daddy says, is it possible to get Sister I's Road Red in a larger cake? I love it so much. Maybe. I'm going back to Yunnan in May, which is not that long now. End of April, early May, I'll be back up in the mountain with Sister I, and that's the sort of stuff we're going to be talking about, is like, can we figure out a way to do, a bigger cake? How does this work? Most of the challenge is sometimes in order to get the price to where it is, I have to buy a lot of them. I get a lot of the 50-gram cakes. Then people want the 357 gram. And I'm like, oh no, I have all these 50 grams that I bought and I haven't sold yet. But if people will drink it, I'm always up for it. That would look beautiful as a full cake. It would really be quite a thing. Questions from Nate Dogg. Do you know when the green tea pre-orders will start? Soon. We're planning that right now, probably early March. We're still in a little bit of a situation trying to figure out our green teas, because we are opening up these new warehouses in the EU and UK, and the paperwork requirements for them are radically more difficult than for the American market. So we're thinking of potentially switching up some of our suppliers. It'll still be really good tea, or we're going to have to get our current suppliers EU compliant paperwork, which takes time, but I don't want everybody's tea to be delayed because the EU is waiting for their paperwork. And I also would like to be able to launch everything at the same time. So I'm juggling a lot of balls to try to figure out how we're going to do this year's green tea. It's going to be the hardest green tea pre-order that we've ever done because of these new regulations, and also general trade issues with America and China. For all we know, we'll buy it and then trade will be banned by the time we do it. We have no idea. We're doing the best we can. Questions over here from Gary Schreider. Says, hey, Jesse, I was wondering what you think of yellow tea. I don't see any on your website. I was curious to order, but I was curious of your thoughts on it. Yellow tea, I don't have any on the site, mostly just because it's a good, there are great yellow teas out there, but there's kind of like the low end of the yellow tea is like the highest end I could possibly do in the subscription. And so as a result, I don't want to like give everybody a not so great yellow tea as their only yellow tea they've ever tried. But also, if I go up to the higher end of it, I can't put it in the subscription box, which means that it's just an extra thing for me to source that's going to be expensive and not sell as much. So like for business reasons, I don't really have it on the site. I have some good yellow tea samples that I'm looking at, and so I'm thinking of, and I was originally going to have a yellow tea as like a optional add-on to the green tea pre-order, so that way I could pre-order it, so I would at least not have to like put up tons of money and then like never sell it. But then the paperwork issues. Trying to get the paperwork for the yellow tea has been very difficult because it's not even that like widely made in China. And so very few companies have the export paperwork for it, and very few companies have done the chemical testing, and it just is kind of a mess. But the tea itself is good. Like if you get good yellow tea, it's basically like a green tea, but more. So kind of like an oolong is like a green tea, but more in a different way. Yellow tea is also kind of like green tea, but more in a different way than the oolong and the green tea. It's basically green tea, except that there's a kind of a steam fermentation step in there. And that imparts some interesting kind of like middle flavors to the tea that makes it like juicier and kind of more full-bodied than a green tea would be. But I'm not like a yellow tea hater. It's just like or I put it this way: if I am a hater, it's because I think generally if I had X amount of dollars to spend on tea, I would usually spend it on many other things before I got yellow tea. And as a tea drinker, I'm really fortunate that because I run a tea company, I get samples sent to me all the time from different farmers and friends of friends and people that even occasionally followers. And so I have a little yellow tea in my collection. I don't have a ton. It's enough that I have it on hand if I want to drink it, and I didn't have to buy it, which is even better. So I have not been, as aggressive as I could have been about tracking down some good yellow teas. Maybe a good topic for a future video series when I go to China. Try to demystify the yellow tea a bit, because it's the least drunk of all of the different tea types. Gamer says, not a hater, just have priorities. I think so. I mean, it's like food. It's like if you like, you like fish, you like steak, you like, whatever, vegetables, you like hot pot, you like Peking duck, you can only have one dinner tonight. And while you can drink several teas in the afternoon, you know what I mean? Like, you can only have one dinner. Very, very cool. Tiago Kemmer says, hey, love your content. Never tried Chinese tea, but oh, damn it, I missed everything went up. I'm glad that if you haven't tried Chinese teas, give them a try. Go to my shop, jessesteahouse.com. If you're in the EU, eu.jessesteahouse.com. If you're in the UK, uk.jessesteahouse.com. The EU and the UK websites right now are not fully up, but they have information there. And if you're ever wondering what's going on, we keep them updated. So you don't need to private message me. You don't need to ask me a comment, although do comment in the video because that'll help the algorithm. But I keep all those the different websites updated with the most recent knowledge. And I've learned throughout my time being a overly optimistic tea guy, I always think we can get it here faster than we can. I look at the things, I'm like, oh, it takes whatever, this many days to pack, this many days to ship, this many days to process, this many days to get through customs. It should take that many days, and it always takes more. So we're working on it. Joshua says, loving the Four Seasons so far. Crispy, thank you. Yeah, that's what we're drinking right now. It is crisp with several P's. Crisp. Very cool. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with my back. It's hurting over here. Great questions over here. Why are some teas soapy? They shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe you have some bizarre taste bud thing going on, like with cilantro, but I don't, they shouldn't be soapy. Crisp, Excellent. Great question over here. What is better, quality or price? Is it worth it to buy an expensive tea? Where's the cheap stuff on Amazon good enough? So here's the thing about price with the tea. There's a couple elements to that. Just because a tea is expensive doesn't mean it's good. Or another way of saying it is just because a tea is worth 10 times as much as another tea, it doesn't mean it's 10 times better. There's a couple reasons why tea could be expensive or could be cheap. On Amazon, one reason it's probably cheap is because it's tea that needs to be offloaded from the China market. So usually something went wrong. It was processed badly. It's very low quality. The people who actually drink tea won't drink it. Then they go to like the Chinese dump market where they go to Taobao or whatever and they try to offload it on the Chinese websites and they can't offload it. And if it can't be offloaded in China or on the Chinese cheapo websites, somebody eventually will get such a deal on it that they'll try to sell it on Amazon and they'll try to get rid of it that way. Generally, that's kind of why the Amazon tea is almost guaranteed not to be good, because in general, America and the West makes it very difficult for like a regular Chinese farmer to get their stuff onto Amazon legally. So either they have to smuggle it, in which case it's good tea, but it's smuggled, which is a problem, or they like basically individual farmers can't get the stuff on there, so they have to sell to middlemen who sell to middlemen who sell to middlemen who sell to middlemen, blah, 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 blah. And the only way it's cheap at the end of that process is if nobody wanted it. So the result is that there's a lot of Junko tea on Amazon, and I'm not saying that you couldn't find some good stuff on there, but if you buy 5 bags of tea for $10, you might as well have spent $50 on stuff that you knew was going to be good. And because the thing about tea is, once you have bad tea, if you have a giant cake of bad tea, you try it once, you never want to drink it again. There's like no use for it. It sits there forever. And even if you only have a smaller amount of good tea, but you're excited to drink it, you will drink it all. You'll get more out of it than you will if you get the Junko tea. Expensive tea, there's kind of other reasons why teas get super expensive. They get super expensive either because they're rare, like they come from the original Da Hong Pao mother trees, or they come from very small ancient tea tree groves, which are not just good but also famous. Generally in China, there's a huge market for high-end tea, and so you get a lot of people who are arguably not even tea people, but just kind of like investor or like fly-by-night entrepreneur types who will start a tea brand with very, very rare leaves and then try to sell them for $80,000 or whatever it is. And that drives up the price of all of that rare tea for everybody. So one reason is it could be rare. Another reason is that it could have attributes that are very uncommon. So for instance, the sweetest of the raw pu'er or the most astringent of the raw pu'er, if you have a scale from 1 to 99 of these attributes, the people who really like that attribute, once you get into the high 90s, will be willing to pay a lot of money for that, the most sweet or the most astringent or the most energetic, whatever it is, somebody's willing to pay a lot of money for it. And so you get this tail end on the thing where one tea gets 10 times or 100 times more expensive. And then is it really 100 times better? Not really, unless you are a very experienced tea drinker who knows exactly what you want and you have infinite money. So in general, in the middle of that, there's actually kind of, an amount of, there's like a reasonable place where you can say, by paying more money, I get more value. The minimum you want to pay is you need to know the wholesale rates on the tea mountain for those leaves. So if I go and I have ancient tree raw pu'er tea, not from a fancy mountain, just from an actual ancient tree that's at least 200 years old. On the tea mountains, there's an established market for how much that tea costs. And if you're buying it on Amazon or even on my website for less than it costs to get that tea, then either it's not what it's claiming to be, or it's something's wrong with it. So that would set off my sensors about like that's too little to be paying, because if it really is ancient tree tea that's aged 15 years, it's not going to be $25. You can't get the raw material, you can't get the leaves itself for $25 at that amount of tea. So that's kind of on the low end. On the high end, it does get a little bit trickier, but I generally find that there is also a point at the high end where all of a sudden you're paying for stuff that for me may not be that important. For instance, when we did our premium Chimen red tea, we had a couple different options for our premium Chimen, and the top 3 options all tasted exactly the same to me. I couldn't tell a difference from the taste. And the vendor also was like, there's not a huge difference in taste. The difference is in how pretty the leaves look, how even are they, how like the color on them, the shape of them, the amount of broken leaves. The one that looks prettier, can be put on a silver scoop at a very high-end tea house and really paraded about. And they can charge a lot more money for it because it has that very high-end look to it. But the flavor doesn't necessarily taste any different. And also, in order to keep those leaves unbroken, you basically have to put them in Brink's truck or something like that. You'd have to have a real operation to get them from the mountain to the display without it being smushed at any point. Something that I just cannot do in the way that I do my business, and that I honestly don't think that you guys care that much about. So I went with the lowest grade of the high grade stuff. So I went with the lowest grade I could that tasted really good and looked really pretty, but there was occasionally a broken leaf here or there, or the color might be a little on or off. And that for me was worth paying. It was literally twice as much for the fancy stuff as this stuff, and they tasted the same. So that was my decision that I kind of made on your behalf, to try to say okay, I think people would rather have the high grade tea, but it's gonna they look beautiful. Unless you are literally comparing them right next to each other, you would never know that this one is twice as much. But to somebody, it's worth that. And so that's why the price kind of goes up. So all of after hearing all of this, the other reason why I wouldn't go for tea from Amazon is these people are just treating it like it's a commodity product. And as you can see, if you're a madman and you actually care about the tea, I'm making my own choices about where it's worth spending that money, kind of on your behalf. And then if I do my job well, the price that comes out to you guys is acceptable. And also the other way, which, by the way, if you like the tea, join the subscription club, because the subscription is the biggest weapon I have to get the price down, because I can go to people and say, I've already pre-sold it. This is my price. I can't go above that. We can sign right now and do it, but you need to give me that price. And if they say no, then I leave and I can go somewhere else. That's kind of the only bargaining chip I have. It's not a huge bargaining chip, because even though our subscription is big by Western standards, it's not actually big by Chinese standards. But if we could get it big by Chinese standards, then we'd really have some interesting leverage there. So anyway, that's kind of a very long-winded answer. I hope that's kind of useful to everybody. Awesome, very, very cool. Oh, there's so many questions over here. What do you suggest for tea during work for people extra energy to stay focused, from Donato Ramirez? Raw pu'er tea. Raw pu'er is my answer to that. It's also called sheng pu'er. It's make sure you have food in your stomach, so I wouldn't drink it at 7 a.m. with no food in your stomach. But raw pu'er, we have a couple really good ones on the site. We have Sister Eyes Everyday Sheng pu'er. We have the 2017 Iwu Mountain Raw Pu'er, also very good. That tea just has good energy. It gets you up. I call it my get shit done tea. You get coffee gives you a boom and then a fall. Tea will bring you up lower, but keep you at a state of alert focus for longer. And so if you're kind of doing tasks, thinking, or even just kind of working a retail job or something like that, but you just want to have some energy, the raw pu'er, also known as sheng pu'er, is the one to go for. That's going to give you a yellowish tea color. The younger sheng tea actually will look a lot like that. maybe a little bit more yellow than green. And the older raw pu'er will turn to gold, and then the oldest raw pu'er turns to dark gold, and then eventually to like motor oil black. If you watch the YouTube video I have a long YouTube video on my channel. It's like a 7 or 8 minute video of drinking 60 something year old raw pu'er tea, and it's like, it looks like motor oil. It's crazy. It's just aged so much. Very cool. Do a couple more questions. Soggy Batman Fart says, I got the sampler kit and I love it. Thank you, Soggy Batman Fart. Glad to be part of your tea journey. Very, very cool. Universal Drift says, pu'er makes me feel a little bit jittery, but in a nicer way. Yeah, the thing about the raw pu'er, if you're like older, like you're older than like 50 or 60 or whatever, some people do say they have stomach problems with it. And also, if you drink too much of it, you can get tea drunk, a little too jittery. So it is potent, but your own body, as everybody asks, how much caffeine is in it? As if me giving you an absolute number would even make sense anyway. You know, when you drink coffee or tea, or like what these things do to your body. Some people know, like, I can't eat sugar late at night, I'll be up. Everybody's body absorbs it in a different way. The absolute number of milligrams of caffeine, in my opinion, is not really that useful. And also, the caffeine is not the only thing in the leaf. There are multiple chemicals, especially theanine, L-theanine, is the other main kind of like caffeine-esque particle in there that brings like kind of that calming energy. And your body might absorb more or less than that. You might drink it and immediately have like focus but calm. Or you might need to drink a lot of it before it affects you. It's like, I don't know. Even with some people, they say they taste different things in the tea. Our tongues are different. You know, there isn't one right, you know, everybody's body is different. You're gonna kind of experience it a little bit differently. That's why I always say, like, everybody's first thing should try it out, try it out. How many milligrams? Try it out. How long should I steep it? Try it out. I give suggestions on like the back of the box for how to do these. But like, those are suggestions to start with. You'll kind of roll with it from there. Very, very cool. Questions over here. Victor Rashev says, sometimes steeping too long can cause bitterness or too much tea to water ratio. Try dialing back brew time at first, then dial the tea amount. I don't know what you're talking about, but that sounds like good advice. Cheers. Go a little bit longer. I was gonna do 2 teas, but we've gone through almost an hour, 45 minutes just on this one tea, and as you'll see, I'm continually drinking. It's actually good, because when I sampled this, I drank through like most of the steeps, but I didn't really take it all the way to the end. And I'm finding it actually has a lot more pop to it than I thought it did towards the end, which is great. Joshua says, highly recommend the subscription box. Hey, tried so many amazing teas that I never would have found. Thank you so much. That's also part of the benefit as a subscription. 3 teas every quarter. So every 3 months you get 3 new teas. So it's not monthly, but it's basically kind of monthly, except it comes every 3rd month with 3 teas. And I do that just purely because it saves everybody money on shipping. Rather than shipping and paying tons of shipping every month, you pay shipping once every 3 months. So yeah, the new subscription is excellent. I really encourage you guys to like these, especially the rose red tea. Like that cake is like so beautiful. It's amazing. Questions over here. M&A says, what? I didn't know you hosted this. Glad I opened YouTube today. Yeah, I occasionally do these lives, very sporadically. We have a little bit more kind of consistency with the subscribers. We do subscriber only tea times. Every time a new box comes out, we need to pick the date for the pig box subscriber only tea time. But I used to do a little bit more, and then I got super busy. The tea company's been doing well, but it means there's a lot of stuff to manage now, and especially with opening up the new warehouses in the EU and UK. This last month, the whole the new administration in the United States is very erratic and not interested in stability when it comes to trade. You know, there's basically tariffs and different types of change of trade policy is a big weapon that has been used to kind of like grow political power. And so that's a very uncomfortable position to be in as a humble tea merchant. I just don't know what's going to happen. So I've had to build out basically a backup plan to say, like, if the politicians destroy the current way of doing business with China, and I know that the Chinese who are not going to be paying these tariffs, they will ship it through 4 different countries if they have to avoid paying the tariffs. So there's never going to be any money made from this from the government. But if they do that, one, I don't know if that's going to be legal, and two, I want to make sure that I still am able to keep an uninterrupted supply to you guys in the States, even if it means paying the tariffs. So I've had to basically come up with a second logistics strategy, which we're not using, but we need to be ready to use at any time because of the governmental instability. And again, I don't know if that's an overreaction. I don't know if it's an underreaction. Not sure. But that's the challenge with political stability, is you don't know. We'll figure it out. Iro the One says, or Euro the One, I suppose, says, what's the price of the subscription? It's $58 for 3 teas, but if you subscribe, it's 10% off. So it's like $53. So it's basically buy 2, get 1 free. The teas, if you buy them separately, would be something like $68 or $70. And then if you get it with the subscription box, it's $58. And if you get it subscribed, it's $53. And actually, this weekend, there's an extra sale on for Valentine's Day. You get a free tea pet if you buy a subscription box or subscribe this weekend. So that's as good of a deal as you're ever going to get. I should say that. We have the sale on. Free surprise tea pet with all subscription box purchases this weekend for Valentine's Day. And you can get the rose red Yunnan tea in there, which is the perfect Valentine's Day gift in addition to the other stuff. So good stuff. Questions over here. Rosens says, the 2013 snake tea for this sub box is so cool. That's what I have today. Yeah, there we go. Go get it. Very, very cool. What do you guys like of the packaging? We got the snake eating its own tail. The return to the previous year of the snake. This is 2025. We're in the year of the wood snake. And then 12 years ago was the year of the water snake, which is what we put in the bag, 12-year aged tea. That's from my tea guy, Ying Ching, too, is like really old friend of mine. One of my tea guys, one of my first tea guys. And he really knows pour, so he has a lot of really, really great pour. Cheers. I'm gonna do 1 or 2 more questions and then get going. Very, very cool. Senor Snap says, I finally caved and bought the subscription box. I've been waiting for it for a while now. Thank you so much. It's the best deal on the site. Like, it really is. I see all the orders that come in, and sometimes I'm like, they should have gotten the subscription box. They should have gotten the subscription box because it's just the best deal on the site. We really don't make a ton of money off of it, but it allows us to get the scale to do other things, which is great. Very, very cool. When will the tea resin come back in stock? From Eric Bynum. We have a big shipment of tea resin that has already landed in the States, and it's going through a customs inspection. I hope there's no problem with it. I asked all the experts. I asked import people. I was like, it's just black tea. They're like, no other ingredients? I'm like, no other ingredients. And it's just the shape that's weird. And then they're like, well, if there's no other ingredients in there and you label the ingredients and you have the proper government regulated nutrition facts and you did everything else right, there should be no problem with importing it. So we haven't had any problems so far, and we're going through our first customs inspection with it. So I guess at the end of this, we'll know, but there should be no reason that there's a problem with the customs inspection. And the only thing is we don't know how long it's going to take. It's also not clear whether it's a legit customs inspection or again kind of a politically activated let's make things hard with trade with China right now for political reasons, so inspect a lot of stuff but don't actually inspect it, just hold it just to show that we're angry. Again, all these political games hurt me and you. Yeah, big fan of the political gamesmanship. Very, very cool. Phil Wee was saying, I'm surprised how much we like the rose tea resin. They're very different from each other. The The rose red tea resin is very light and very floral and very kind of like, smells like flowers. It's good stuff. The downside is that it isn't as strong of a taste. We did hear 1 or 2 complaints. People go, it's not strong enough. I'm like, you can add as much water as you want. You don't need to add 16, 24 ounces of water. If it's not strong enough, throw a second tablet in there or drop the water count. Like, it is what it is. The cooked pu'er, like the show pu'er tea and the, to some degree, the orange peel show pu'er tea resins, those are stronger. And then I also have samples of white and shung tea resin that Sister I gave me, but I don't think those are ready yet. It's not quite, they aren't as good as the 4 that we have right now. She's working on kind of like how long the processes need to go. There's like experimentation going on right now. Because I told her we definitely would love to have more of them, but the quality of those 2 were not up to the quality of the 4 that we put on the website. Originally I wanted 5, but I think the top 4 were clearly the winners. So we kind of went with that. So cheers over here. Lots of great questions. How much tea do you drink on a daily basis? A lot of questions. Hold on. How much tea do you drink on a daily basis without having to constantly try out new teas and choose for the site? Also, do you ever get burnt out on type of teas because of this? This is a good question. I don't really get burnt out because I always switch up what I'm drinking. I tend not to drink the same tea more than like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week. So if I'm drinking like Yunqing's 2013, I'm probably not even drinking this 3 times in 1 week. I have so many different types of tea. I do have a lot of samples that I'm always kind of going through. Sometimes you might notice on my tea videos, I'm like, that's a new tea, but he's talking about something else instead of the new tea, just because I'm drinking a lot of samples. And so I don't want every video on my site to be talking about, this is a sample, this is a sample, this is a sample. Sometimes I want to talk about something else and I just want to be making tea when I'm talking about it. But it's definitely a, whatchamacallit? I mean, it's a lot of fun to try all the new teas. There are times when we're getting close up to the days where I need to decide which teas are going to be in a future box, where I really do just have to sit down and try 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teas in one day. But I try not to do that. I try to space it out because it's like, that makes it feel more like work. And like the whole point of this drinking tea is like, shouldn't be work if I'm doing it right, you know? Should be pretty chill. I don't want to turn my like hobby and this thing I love into like a machine. So we'll see how that goes. Even if it potentially means slowing stuff down with the tea company, like you guys all in the long term benefit from me not burning out. So in the short term, it might be like, oh, stuff is coming out later than it could. In the long term, if I don't burn out, it'll be better. This is one thing I learned when living abroad. I met a lot of people that moved to China, and then they went in really hard and they didn't like take care of themselves, and then they burn out, and then everything that they used to like is now horrible. So they used to like that it was very adventurous, and now they're like, it's so unstable here. And they used to like that people would like be eating food on the streets or whatever, and then people like, it's so crowded here. And so it's a mentality, and it's based off of avoiding burnout. So always trying to avoid burnout is my thing here. Thank you so much, Brian, for the heart. Appreciate it. And thank you, Laurent, for the rose. Appreciate it. Get your rose. Very, very cool. Ni hao, bro. How you doing? Doing good. Very, very good. Any new pets? New tea pets? Guys, our own design winner, Pig. Our Pig tea pet is out. It's in the tea box. This was designed. This was the winning submission to our tea pet competition. I think we got 35 pigs. We had top 10, top 3, and then finally this boy, who is our tea pet competition winner. It's so cool. We built this guy basically from scratch. We did that competition. We gave prizes to the winners. Maisie, who is the winner of the tea pet, won, I think it's $200 and 10 tea pets. And also she gets a portion of all the tea pet sales. So it's like so cool. We're having stuff designed by the community now existing in real life. How crazy is that? That's super cool. Cheers. So previously I was talking about how many times can you steep the tea. We've been an hour on this one. It's got to be at least 7 steeps, 8 steeps. This is getting towards the end of where I would expect the flavor to be good, but it will always, one option that you can do is as you're getting to the end of the steeps, you can raise the steep time. So as you see here, even on the back of the tin, the steep time changes and goes up, and the steep time extends as you get further into the progression. And this is something you can apply to all teas. It's not like this one oolong is special. We have room on the back of this thing to give a little bit more detail. That being said, don't think that this is like the only way to do it and you should be sitting there with a timer. Like, again, still apply your own taste to it. If you're liking it, if it's too strong, back off the timer, the temperature. If you'd rather have it get weaker as it goes on, that's also fine. You don't need to change. If you keep the same time and temperature and the tea is losing power, it will get weaker. A lot of this kind of adjustment of raising the steep time and temperature is so that as it gets weaker and you're raising the time, you have a more consistent flavor. But who's to say that you want consistency? Maybe you want the tea to have a really big change across from the steeps. Totally fine. It's just about knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then, so I'm gonna add one last steep of this. I boiled this up to boiling. I'm gonna leave it in there for, quite a little while, and we'll go from there. So, Krugingfoot says, greetings from Germany. Welcome to our friends from Germany. eu.jessie'steahouse.com, our website. It's gonna be launching very soon. You can go there right now and get email notification when the EU shop opens. And everything will be so much easier. I did it really specifically for Germany is our biggest country of tea drinkers that are buying from the site right now. And everybody's paying crazy shipping. Once the EU store opens in the Netherlands, it will be very easy to get tea to Germany. And it'll all be no tariffs, or I'll have paid the tariffs ahead of time. You'll have VAT, but no import taxes, no long shipping. It'll be coming straight through the EU. Very, very cool. Buzzword says, dude, love your content, both the tea and the stand-up. Thank you for being amazing. Thank you so much. I got to do more shows, man. I'm working on a book. I got a book deal from Simon & Schuster, Avid Press, to write about my time studying comedy in China. Actually, pretty much completely un-tea related, all those years that I spent in China doing comedy. And then it's going to be coming out hopefully next year, but I'm still writing it. I was writing it yesterday. I wrote a lot of it in 2018, but not the whole thing. And I've been trying to get it published ever since. And just this year, we got the book deal. So, big win. Hopefully you guys will be, my hope is that I'll be able to do like a stand-up book tour where I'll be able to do some sort of like tea in the audience, do some shows, read from the book. It would be so much fun. Very, very cool. Adrian D, Jesse, help, I've been sick. I'm sorry to hear that. I've also been sick. You should watch my video on my sick time tea. Not that it will cure you, but I did a sick time tea video boiling the white tea leaves. It's definitely a thing. Questions from N. Do you ever see yourself moving back to China? I don't think I'm going to move back full time, but I'm definitely going back to China in April and May. And then I kind of want to be spending more time there. I'm finding like, it's just sort of like, it's actually the main reason I'm not going back there, and maybe this is not even a really good reason, is just like, it's hard to find a girlfriend if you're flying over to spend 6 weeks at a time in China, and then you come back and you're doing all this sort of stuff. Like another single Valentine's Day for me yesterday, so not super fun. But I'm planning on going back and forth, and especially now, like you guys have really given me this amazing safety net, because part of the reason that I wasn't moving back after COVID is just the economy is unstable. It's a crazy place. Things are great, then they're horrible, then they're great, then they're horrible. And I lived like that for 10 years. And then I came back to the States where it's a little bit more stable. Even with Americans complaining now that things are unstable, they haven't had any real political instability in so long that this does feel really bad. And it is bad by American standards. But in many other places in the world, the politics really destabilized the situation. And, and I'm an American citizen, so I'm kind of safer here. That being said, I really miss being in China. I have a lot of friends in China. Today I'm going to 2 birthday parties. One of them was an American who used to live in China like me and is now back here. Another one is a Chinese friend of mine from my comedy troupe that just moved here to LA. So I'm still hanging out with Chinese people and with, Americans like myself that were in China all the time. Maybe it makes sense to go back to China more often. I've even toyed with the idea of I'd love to do this. I don't know if it's really practical, but I love the idea of doing like a tea themed Airbnb, like a tea B&B, where everywhere I want to be, if I want to be in Beijing or if I want to be in Yunnan or if I want to be in Taipei or if I want to be in LA or New York or whatever, opening up like a room that is like a B&B themed around the tea, along with all tea related stuff you can do in that city or region. And then that way, if I want to be in Beijing, I can stay at my own Airbnb and just not rent it. I think that would be like super, super fun. But the actual Airbnb is banned in China, so you couldn't really do that. But unfortunately, if I came to you with a business plan and say, hey, here's the business plan, you're going to pay rent in all of the most expensive cities all at the same time and own none of the properties. And now I have to manage rental properties around the world. I'm like, that doesn't actually seem like a very calm way to live your life. But it would be baller. So maybe we get there eventually. But it's not going to happen today. So in the meantime, I'm probably just going to be either staying with friends when I go to China or be in hotels, which is fine. All right, I'm going to head out. It's been about an hour. It's really great to be able to hang out with everybody. I hope you guys have a good Saturday. Again, new subscription box just came out. Check it out on the site. Best time to buy it because we have a free tea pet we're giving out with the subscription box, including all those crazy discounts. You get like three teas and a tea pet for $53 if you subscribe, which is nuts. So you've been thinking about it now. We're really not making that much money on it, but I just want to help grow the subscription. I want people to get I want people to kind of get the idea that hey, it's great to have these new things kind of just show up, and you don't need a lot of the time on tea. You spend hours and hours researching this stuff. I've done a lot of work to make sure that the teas are good, so that by the time they get to you, you're going to enjoy hopefully all of them. And if even the ones you personally are not up to your taste, they're going to be very good quality. We even have a Discord server. You can do swaps and stuff like that. So it's very, very fun. It's a good subscription to be in, and generally we very rarely have a miss. I don't think I've ever had a tea where people in general were like, I didn't like it. Occasionally everybody has different taste, but in general, everybody likes all of them. So very, very cool. All right, I'm gonna head out. Have a good one, guys. Let me know if you have any comments and all this sort of stuff. Please put into the chat and or into the comments of the videos. I do actually look through the comments when I'm looking for video ideas. If you want me to actually answer your video idea, ask a short, concise question. Because if it's a paragraph, I can't reply to it because the text is going to be so small on the screen. If you ask a short, concise question, then I can copy it and I can put it onto the screen and I can use that kind of video reply function, and then I can answer the question. So I always love when I get good, short, concise questions where people don't necessarily have to explain their entire life history underneath the question. Obviously, if you don't need the thing answered to the video, you can ask me anything you want. I actually really do love seeing those several paragraph long responses about how the tea impacted your life. I'm big on that. So I'm not saying all your comments should be like that. But if you do want me to actually video reply to your question, it does help if it's short and concise. So awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one. Happy New Year again. 蛇年吉祥。新年快乐，万事如意，心想事成，笑口常开。Great to see you all. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, guys.